back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Kyla, and today we are going to chat about all of the books that I read in the month of February. I am going to do my February reading stats as well. You guys really liked that in my January wrap-up, so I'm going to continue to do so, and then maybe at like the end of each quarter, I'll do like a quarterly wrap-up, something along those lines, or maybe like a mid-year wrap-up. I'm not sure, but we are going to continue that trend, and we're also going to talk about the 8 books that I read in the month of February, which is actually not a lot for me, but I've been really trying to be super intentional about not rushing through books, like taking my time, soaking them in, absorbing them. And this month I read from all Black authors, so that was like extra important to me to like not fly through them. Give the books the attention they deserve and the authors the attention they deserve. And I mean, they weren't all successful, as we'll see, but I still had a great time. And like I said, I'm really not trying to like rush through books this year, trying to take my time. So I feel like 8 is good. I also read some hefty paged books this month, so that also played into it. But yeah, let's just go ahead and dive in. So we're going to start off with the stats. I have my reading journal here. Throughout the month, I keep a list of every book that I read, the number of pages, etc., so that at the end of the month, it's easy to do like my little wrap-up page. I have calculated, done all of the calculations, and let me just tell you, it honestly just makes me so freaking happy. I am such a numbers nerd, and I am like so appreciative that I have found my people, because so many of you on the last one were like, I'm also a numbers nerd. I love to hear it, so thank you. Thank you for validating me, and like also I appreciate your nerdiness, and I'm just glad we're here together. So anyways, my first stat is I read 2,864 pages, which honestly, like, I'm very impressed by that because of I only read 8 books. Like, that's a lot for only reading 8 books. The genres that I read from this month were thriller, horror, fantasy, romance, and contemporary. 6 of them were YA, 2 of them were adult, which, like, tracks. If you know anything about me and my reading taste, that tracks. I am trying to like read more adult books, but like I just love YA, guys. I just love it so much. I did have 1 DNF. We'll talk about that one first. My ratings, I had 3 3-stars. That freaking happens every single time, every month. I swear. It's like the 3... It's like 3 3-stars. It's crazy. But I only had 2 4-stars and 2 5-stars. 8 of my books, meaning all of them, were from the library, which is like a total opposite of what's happening this month. Actually, I would say it's quite equal this month, but in February, all of my books were from the library. I didn't mean for that to happen, but it just did. 7 of them I read audio and physical, like a combo of both. 1 of them I read physically, and then this is my favorite part. This is my favorite part. The spending and the saving, okay? So I spent $57.67. So I did order a few books off of Pango, and then in that I include my Book of the Month membership, and then obviously any add-ons that I get. So all of that totaled $57.67. I saved by getting all of my books from the library this month. And I should backtrack a second. So I count like my spent, even if I don't read those books this month, like that's just what I spent on books in general for the month. So it's not that I spent money on the books that I read, if that makes sense. It's just like an overall. Anyways, you get it. So I saved $111.49, and I get all of my prices off Amazon. So I try to go like the lowest of low as opposed to like going to the Barnes & Noble website and seeing what it's at. Like I just go off Amazon, even though I probably wouldn't order from there. You get it. And so that means that I have a total savings of $53.82, which like I said, I always want to be in the positive. It's okay if like maybe occasionally I'm not, but I always want to try to be in the positive, meaning that I'm using my library as much as possible and I'm not just buying all of these books from like cover buys, etc. So those are my stats this month. I feel like I am still like a little bit shocked at the number of pages. is. And honestly, when I like totaled it up, the total that like I came out on positive was actually a little shocking to me. But like I didn't realize as the month was going that I literally was reading all library books. I like did not even register that until I went to like go add everything up, and I was like, oh, no wonder. So yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about all the books now. So let's get the DNF out of the way so that we can talk about some more positive things. And the DNF that I had this month was Come and Get It by Kylie Reed, which honestly breaks my heart a little bit. It breaks my heart because I loved Such a Fun Age. I thought it was such a page turner. I thought it was really gripping, a fun mystery overall, also having like a really good social commentary to it, at least like at the time that I read it. I don't know if I would have the same opinion now, but at the time that I read it, I really enjoyed it. And so I was really looking forward to this one, but this is a me problem, so take this DNF with a grain of salt, because I went into it thinking that we were going to have another kind of mystery page turner. Like, shame on me for not looking into the genre more. It's definitely a contemporary or a lit fic in there. This one takes place at a college and it follows a number of different characters. Like, there are a lot of characters, and for me, I just wasn't connecting to any of them. We have the RA, we have a like stand-in professor, and then we have some of the students, and we get perspectives from each of them, and it's just a lot, and it just was not doing it for me. I read 205 pages of this. I am keeping track of that. And it is counting towards my number of pages because I did read them. I don't count it towards like my yearly reading goal, but I do count the pages. Anyways, I read 205 pages, and in that, I don't feel like we really got anywhere in the story other than like character introductions, and even at that I was like, I don't really care or connect to any of these characters. Again, this could be a me thing because I didn't have like the college experience. I didn't go away to a university or anything like that, so if you did, you might enjoy this more than I do. Or if you are just like completely one of those people who just loves a character study book, this one will be up your alley. For me, I need something else going on to really keep my attention, and it just wasn't that, so unfortunately I did DNF. Again, this is probably a me problem. It had nothing to do with the writing or anything like that. I just didn't feel like there was enough plot and I wasn't connecting with the characters enough. Going into the books that I actually read this month, the next one is The Shadow Sister by Lily Mead. This is a YA thriller. I love this premise, which is why I gravitated towards this book. One, I love the cover. I absolutely love the cover of it. I think it's stunning. But I love me a story where a person goes missing and then they come back and you're trying to figure out what happens to them. I do think sometimes it can be a little bit repetitive, you know, because I feel like you really have to do something different with the plot, which I feel like this book did. I feel like it was done really well while also covering a lot of social commentary, because in this one we are following two sisters. One of them has gone missing and she is of color, and so obviously police are already making their assumptions about what happened to her and already placing the idea that like, oh, well, she must have been up to something. She must have been out late, hanging out in the bad part of town, blah, 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 blah. And just making all of these assumptions about her, which like we see in this day and age literally all of the time. So obviously they're not putting as much effort into finding her. And then she comes back and her sister noticed that something is like completely off with her. And this is dual point of view, which I really enjoyed. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars because the ending was not quite my favorite, and I just found both of these sisters a bit annoying. Like, they have their sibling dynamic and like that's all well and good, but I feel like they were both like the woe is me kind of characters, and they were really kind of annoying me to a certain point. Now I understand like it is YA, so you know, take that with a grain of salt, but it just felt, even for me, someone who reads a lot of YA, I was like, oh, you're reading so young, and like the way you're acting and the immaturities that you're like getting all hot and bothered about and that kind of thing. So it just didn't like impact me that way, but I really loved, something that I really loved about this book is the way that they wove in this family's history into the story. So we get like the backstory of like their ancestors and what has happened to them, and talking about like generational things that have happened, and I really enjoyed that. I loved getting like a glimpse into this family's backstory. I just feel like that's not really done a whole ton in books, and I really enjoyed it, and I feel like it brought something different to the table, to like this kind of everyday kind of thriller. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but like I said, the ending and the characters themselves prevented me from giving this any higher of a rating, but 3.5 stars is really good. It was definitely a page turner. It kept me gripped, and we did have different audio narrators for the different sisters, which I also really enjoyed. And then we have a handful of books which I actually vlogged, so I'm gonna go through them like pretty quickly. I say that and that never happens, but as quick as I possibly can. I will link the vlog below as well in the cards. It was my Blackathon reading vlog, which if you don't know is a readathon put on by Jessie from Jessie on YouTube, and I just had the best time reading all of these books. I mean, it wasn't all a good time, but really enjoyed reading some of these books that were just like a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I mean, some of them were in my comfort zone, but some of them were out of my comfort zone. So like I said, I did vlog these books, so I will link it below as well as in the cards. The first one is Delicious Monsters by Lascelles Sambury. This one I also gave 3 stars. This one is a YA horror, but it is so long. This one is over 500 pages, and for me personally, this is just a personal problem. I really struggle with horror that is any longer than like 350 pages. I just find that it's so drawn out and kind of gets a little bit repetitive, and those like extra 200 pages always just lose me. And again, this is a me problem because I have seen this book going around, and there are some other people that I follow and really, you know, have similar reading taste to that have loved this. So again, it could be a me thing, but this one overall just felt so long. I did really love the take on like a haunted house situation. In this one, we have 2 timelines. We have the past, which is following a mother and daughter. They are moving back into the mother's family home. They inherited it and they are moving back to the family home, and some things have happened in the house. The mother has a past with this house and she's definitely uncomfortable, and the daughter is actually able to see ghosts, so there's like a tiny bit of like a fantastical element to this too. It's mostly horror, but there is that like tiny bit of fantasy. And then we have the present day, where we are following a woman who has a web series that goes around to different places and covers different stories. She really wants to do a story on missing Black teens, but unfortunately her producers are like, oh, that's been done. We don't need to hear any more about that. Gag me. So they changed the whole series to cover what has happened in this house because her mother had written about it, and the 2 timelines end up overlapping, etc. But again, this just felt so long. There were a lot of elements I really enjoyed. Like, I loved the fact that the girl from the past could see ghosts. Like, the way that that was described was actually so creepy and so eerie, and honestly so disgusting at times. It wasn't like friendly ghosts here. It was definitely some graphic grossness going on there. So I really enjoyed that. It definitely brought the horror, and a lot of the horror in this book is what happened in the house, and it does cover a lot of deeper topics. So definitely look up trigger warnings for this one if you're interested in reading it, because there were a lot, as well as obviously all of the social commentary as well, especially among like the missing Black teens. Like, that just, the way that they talked about that at the beginning, I was like, oh, but I really enjoyed it. For like the first 250 pages, I was so invested. I really liked the characters a lot. I really thought they were both well done, as well as having multiple narrators, which again, I really enjoy. But again, this one just took it was just so long, and we took so long to get to the ending that it just didn't make an impact on me, because by the time we got there, I was like, God, I'm so glad this was over, because it just felt like it was dragging on and dragging on. So this is 100% a PSA to me to stop picking up long horror books. I'm not gonna do it anymore. We're not gonna do it anymore. I say that, it'll probably happen, but like, I need to be weary of that. And if I didn't say I gave this one 3 stars, I can't remember if I said. I gave it 3 stars. And then I read a book that I have had on my list for so long, and I'm so happy I finally read it because it was a 5-star, and that is Ace of Spades. I can't believe it took me this long to read it. This book is going to stay on my brain for so long. It has so many elements of books that I just absolutely love. Books that I know that like the second I hear that it covers these, I'm like, yes, absolutely. I'm here and it's giving me 5-star energy. And like, I just knew this book was gonna be 5 stars. I just knew it. And the second I started reading it, I was like, oh, absolutely. I am here for this. This one follows 2 students who are getting anonymous texts, so very much gives Pretty Little Liars Gossip Girl vibes, which like, I'm so here for. And the author's note talks a lot about why she wrote this book and why those shows are kind of stuck in her mind and that kind of thing. So definitely read the author's note because I thought it was really impactful. It made me appreciate her writing this book that much more. But we're following these 2 students. They're not necessarily like friends, whatever, they're acquaintances, it's fine. They each kind of have their own lives, but obviously as these texts are going on and their lives are getting aired out to everybody in the school, kind of forces a bond for them, which I loved. I loved the way that their friendship kind of blossomed, and the twist of why this is happening at the school had my jaw on the floor. I feel like I can't say anything else about this book beyond that, but I was shocked. Maybe I shouldn't have been, but oh my goodness, I was shocked. I was shocked. This one also I would look up trigger warnings for because it does cover a lot of deeper topics and very disturbing topics. I just feel like you should definitely look them up beforehand. It's heartbreaking. The story is absolutely heart-shattering, and like I said, it is one that will stick with me for a long time. These characters will stick with me for a long time, and the more I think about it, like the more angry I get, and the more I just wanted to like dive into the book and like be there for these kids. I just was like, I just want to hug them both and like be like, you're not alone. There's someone here for you in your corner. Like, I absolutely loved it. The writing in this book is great. The plot is so well paced. It's definitely a page turner and like one you cannot put down, but it like gets the job done while also covering all of these deeper topics and all of the social commentary. Oh my god, it's so incredibly well done. I can't believe it took me this long to read it. I am so glad I finally did. It's definitely going on like the top of the year for sure. And then the last book that I read in that vlog was When the Reckoning Comes by Latanya McQueen, and this one I ended up giving 4 stars. This one I really enjoyed. It has a premise that like always intrigues me, where we have a friend who is going back to their hometown for a wedding, but this one takes on a horror side of things where we have the friend who is hosting this wedding at an old plantation, and it really talks about the history of that plantation and the slaves that were there and everything like that. And oh my goodness, this book is so well done. It is short, which is perfect. It is the perfect length for horror, in my opinion. I think it's like 230 pages or something along those lines. And those 230 pages are so impactful. It really dives into the nitty-gritty history of what happened at this plantation. And obviously the disturbing idea of someone hosting a wedding. And oh my god, there's like reenactments going on. And like, it just made me so physically uncomfortable to read this book, but like as it should have. One of those books where like if it doesn't make you uncomfortable, something's wrong. Something is wrong, because it is so hard to read some of these scenes and what is happening. Even though this book is fiction, knowing that this actually happened to people in our world is just so beyond disturbing. And honestly, knowing that everything that is happening in the world right now just makes this book even more disturbing. And it's one that I will absolutely think about. It just wasn't a perfect 5-star for me there at the end. overall, I really enjoyed this one, and it definitely left an impact on me. So that was all for the vlog that I did, and then I read The Blood Trials by N.E. Davenport. This one I was so looking forward to. This is a fantasy that is giving like Legendborn vibes, also having a little bit of sci-fi to it, and really having like that social commentary around racism and misogyny especially. So I was really excited for this one. Now this is marketed as an adult, at least in my like library, and from what I can see on Goodreads, it's marketed as an adult, but this felt so YA. This felt like fourth wing YA. And I guess, I mean, Legendborn is YA too, but there was something about Bree and Legendborn that just didn't feel very young to me, while this main character felt very young to me. And the group of characters that she's around also felt very young. Now this one was a little bit outside of my comfort zone with the sci-fi element. That's not typically my thing, but I wanted to give it a whirl because the synopsis just sounded so good. But the sci-fi of it all just kind of lost me. And it just felt like the overall, like I would say the back half of it just felt very boring to me, and all of the talk about like all of these sci-fi things that were going on just felt very boring. This one also follows a bit of a mystery where we have this girl's grandfather who has passed away, and she believes that he was murdered, so she kind of infiltrates this group and just trying to figure out what happened to him. But this was drawn out throughout the entire book. Now this is only a duology, so like it's very digestible, and you know, kind of you have to set your expectations knowing that like it's probably going to continue in the second book, but because the back half felt so boring to me, I was like, I know I'm not going to continue in the second book, so I just wanted to wrap up. Should I have DNF'd this one? Maybe, but it kept me engaged enough where I felt like I could continue it, but it ended up only being 3 stars, so maybe I should have DNF'd, I'm not sure. I just think, again, this book was another one of those, like, me problems, where, like, if you like a bit of sci-fi, you will probably enjoy this, because it does give Legendborn, it does give a bit of Hunger Games as well, and those elements I really enjoyed out of it. Definitely kind of, like, my side of fantasy in that, but adding the sci-fi just lost me. But if you love sci-fi, you will probably enjoy this book, but it just wasn't for me. And then the last actual book that I read this month was This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron, I'm not sure how do you pronounce it. And this one I ended up giving 4 stars. I really liked this one. I love the idea of fantasy having to do with like plants. So in this one we're following Briseis, and she has the ability, the gift, if you will, to conduct the plants around her. Like plants gravitate towards her, she can grow plants, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, this cover just gives that anyways, and I just absolutely loved it. And I loved learning about her ability, and as she learns about her ability throughout the entire book. And we're following her as she inherits a house from her birth mother, and they go upstate New York to live in this house, figure out if they want to keep it, if they want to sell it, what's going on. But when she gets there, she receives a bunch of letters from her family who lived there, and tries to uncover a mystery of like this property and her gifts and all of that. And I really enjoyed it. I love the pace of this book. I thought it was really well done. Kept my attention the entire time while also adding in these other cast of characters to try to like cast doubt on certain people and that kind of thing. I also love that this takes place in Rhinebeck, New York, and they mention the candy store that Paul Rudd owns, and I just like loved that little nod. If you didn't know, I am a Paul Rudd stan, okay? Me and Paul Rudd, we're like this. So I loved that they like mentioned that and talked about Samuel's sweet shop. I can't. I loved it. This book also had incredible queer representation as well, which we love to see. The only thing that kept this book from being a 5-star for me was that I felt like I was trying to do too much, because we had the fantasy elements, we have this mystery, there's a lot of characters going on, and then it introduces this kind of mythology element to to it, and this a little bit more magical element to it, which I wasn't really expecting at the end. It's not that I didn't like it, I just felt like it was trying to do too much, and the ending just didn't hit as much as I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be a little bit more emotional, if I'm being honest, and it just didn't hit that way for me. But I really loved Briseis as a character, and I love her moms. Oh my god, her moms are just the cutest, the absolute cutest. I just adore them. This is a part of a series, so I definitely think I will check out the next book, see where it goes. I don't know if, I think it's just a duology right now. I don't know if she's planning on continuing it, but I think I will check out the second book and see how I feel about that. But overall, I enjoyed it. I had a good time, loved the characters, and I definitely would recommend this one. If you are looking for a good like fantasy mystery, this one was a good time. And then the last thing that I read this month was a graphic novel. I read Heartstopper Volume 5. I needed just a bit of sunshine in my life amongst all of the horror and thriller that I was reading this month, and my library hold came through, and I was like, yes, this is the perfect time to read this. And I mean, 5 stars. Like, do we even question that at this point? We don't. I loved following them as they are trying to navigate what's going to happen, because Nick is going to go away to school next year. He's trying to figure out where he wants to go. Charlie is still going to be in school. He's trying to figure out where he fits in his life and what's going on with him. And I also love that we got a little bit more of Tori's story in this one. I love Tori. We are a Tori stan here. We are a Tori stan. I love her so much, and I loved her little bit at the end there. Oh my god, I'm not gonna say anything. 5 stars. I cannot wait. I cannot believe that the next one is the last one. Like, what are we going to do? I also cannot wait to see this book turn into the adaptation. I think it's gonna be so fun watching them like go around and tour colleges, and then, oh my god, I can't say anything else. It's a graphic novel. I'm gonna give it away. So I'm not gonna say anything else, but I just cannot wait to see this one come to screen, and I cannot believe that Volume 6 is the last one. Like, what are we gonna do? What are we going to do? I'm gonna reread these a million times over. I need to buy all the copies. I don't own a single one of them yet, which just feels like, honestly, a bit of a crime at this point. I don't know what I've been waiting for, but like, I need to get my hands on them like ASAP, because I need to read the series over and over and over again. I'm not ready for it to be over. I'm really not. It hurts my heart. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of February. I would love to hear what you read this month, what your favorite book was that you read, what your least favorite book was that you read. I think my favorite was definitely Ace of Spades, but also like Heartstopper Volume 5, but like, favorite book was Ace of Spades. Least favorite one, I'm not really sure. I don't really know if I have like a least favorite, but I would love to hear what yours were. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe if you are not already. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers. I cannot even believe it. Like, only a few away, which is just mind-boggling to me. So if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please do so. It would mean the absolute world to have you here, part of the fam. Do not forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!
With you and I